co-founder of Andela, co-founder of Flutterwave, two incredibly successful unicorn companies out of Africa.
People will tell us, if you're an African, just focus on building gazelles. They used to have gazelles and zebras and all these strange animals. And it's like, well, look, if the Americans are building unicorns, I don't see any reason why we can't. Flutterwave, I actually set out to prove that an all-Nigerian team could build $1 billion company. That's a settled matter at this point. The best bet you can make is betting on yourself. I keep saying that Barbados is the most strategic place on the planet that's not on the map. Barbados is basically Dubai in 1995. Most of the capital in the world is on this side, actually, because America is the biggest pool of capital in the world. Barbados is right at the center of every major black population in the world. Barbados can do the same thing, but in the digital economy, it's not about the infrastructure. You can spend all your money on infrastructure and no one will show up. Like, the people you bring are the people who build. First of all, bring the community together, the talent, and when they come, they'll build.
Welcome, E.
Thank you.
We are live from the heart of Bridgetown, Barbados.
Heart of Bridgetown, Barbados.
Welcome to the Upwind podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me here.
So, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So, on the Upwind podcast, we talk to founders and on their upwind journeys, sailing into the wind, right? Pivoting all the way against resistance to that upwind mark, right?
Great.
In sailing and in kite surfing, the upwind journey is either where the pack breaks away from you or where you break away from the pack. Right? And it's all about changing direction and being the first on that lift to take that lift, because you have to have the most subtle, most acute awareness to ensure that you can actually benefit from that lift. And so you have so much experience in this.
Not in kite surfing, I'm learning.
Well, we can get you there.
Yeah, thank you. I would appreciate the lessons. But you got to start with swimming so I don't drown.
We could got the most amazing, beautiful bay right outside Carlisle Bay.
I agree.
Okay, so for the last 10 years, if I go through, you co-founder of Andela, co-founder of Flutterwave, co-founder of Future Africa. These are really intrinsic, fundamental, foundational services, platforms to the development of the continent. Right? If we think about Andela, there's just so much inspiration, and how you realized, okay, what is most needed is upskilling of talent, right? Upskill coding, not in the traditional way and going to university, but literally teaching people for the purpose of what their work would be.
What exactly they're going to need to do for work. Yeah.
And then you partnered, particularly for Facebook, Microsoft, global.
Well, it's really funny. The reason why we started Andela, I wish it was like about upskilling, but it was really just about recognizing that when you think about unemployment as a challenge that faces a lot of people, especially young people. In Africa, I think 40% of youth are unemployed. And the fundamental reason why that is because the economic activity that happens in most developing countries, right, particularly in Africa, doesn't match the population growth, right? In the sense that you got these populations roaring at like 5 to 8% growth every year, which is a lot. Just for context, Barbados is declining.
Yeah. That's more than inflation. That's
way more than inflation, right? And then they have more kids, but they don't have the economy can't grow that fast.
Right.
So how do you manage that imbalance? Well, you got to import another economy over the internet. So in places like Barbados or the US or the UK or lots of Europe, where people are aging and more people, leaving the workforce and leaving work behind because it's for nobody to do. How can you get young people to do those jobs over the internet? That's it.
Yeah, I want to stick a pin there. Import another economy over the internet.
Yeah. Import another economy over the internet. That's precisely what it is.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
So Flutterwave.
Yeah, Flutterwave, again, look at the broad economic landscape. You've handed a few people a bunch of tools. And the next crisis is, how do they get paid for the value that they create? Well, what Andela used to do was Andela gets paid in New York, and then Andela finds a way for the money to get back to Nigeria. But what happens if they decide they don't want to create that value with Andela anymore? They don't want to be Andela employees. They want to go off on their own and work for some firm somewhere in the world without touching Andela. What happens then? And that's where we come in.
Right. So what I'm saying is, with Andela and employment, you said payments, access to global payments, access to digital payments, solving this digital divide. And then, so 2 incredibly successful unicorn companies out of Africa. Yeah. Maybe 2 of the first the first super famous tech companies.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, the
M-Pesa as well. But
so I think the major difference with what we were able to do on the continent was show the world that local companies that were founded by local founders could actually build important businesses. Because before then, you had Jumia, and Jumia was founded by Rocket Internet, which is a German incubator company. M-Pesa was founded by Vodacom, alongside a guy called Michael Joseph, who was Kenyan, but also not quite Black Kenyan, right? So a lot of people before we came on the scene, and I would argue even up till now, it's just changing recently, just thought if you wanted to build a big company, you needed to have a foreigner do it. It never really occurred to people that you could do it. Now with Andela, we did have a global team. So we had Jeremy Johnson and Christina Sass and Ian Carnevale, and they're Americans and Canadians. But we also had myself, you had Nadaya Enegesi, you had Bryce and Kengsa, all Nigerian Cameroon. So you had that blend. And Flutterwave, I actually set out to prove that an all-Nigerian team could build $1 billion company. So that was intentional. So it was just all Nigerians. It was myself, Benga Bola, Adeleke Adekoya, all Nigerians. Wow. And that trend now is like, that's a settled matter at this point, that standard. You can build. And once you do it, I think what was amazing about building those businesses was just once you did it, and you proved it was possible, all the excuses went away. Once you proved it was possible to build $1 billion company, all the excuses went away. When you proved it was possible for Black people to build $1 billion company, all the excuses went away. And I think the biggest lesson for me was just how much even we, as people from Global South or people who maybe look down upon or whatever, internalize our limitations, right? And I think that was something that I hadn't internalized as much until we managed to break some of these glass ceilings in Africa, to be like, well, yeah, you could build. I remember back in the day, people would tell us, if you're an African, just focus on building gazelles. They used to have gazelles and zebras and all these strange animals. And it was like, well, look, if the Americans are building unicorns, I don't see any reason why we can't. They don't have 2 heads. You know what I mean? So we're going to figure it out, right? Whatever we have to do, we'll figure it out. And we did.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And now with Future Africa, it's a fund and a platform for mentorship, advisory for present and future companies to be empowered to do the same.
Yeah, but it's bigger than that. I'd say, well, for Future Africa, what I realized programmatically was that we were always able to find in Africa's big challenges. I mean, when anybody thinks about Africa, they're thinking, whoa, you've got so many problems, poverty, unemployment, war, disease, there's a lot. And no one ever realizes that actually, if you look at those problems are actually huge opportunities. Like, we managed to build $1 billion company that is now global out of taking Africa's unemployment problem and turning it to a global remote work business, which by COVID completely blew out of the water, right? because we saw the future coming. There was a world where we were going to get to where it didn't matter where you lived. So long as you were on the internet, you could work from anywhere. And that world was not real in 2014. That world only became real at COVID, but we started in 2014, 6 years before COVID, and made it real. So I've always found that Africa's challenges are unique in the sense that they are futuristic challenges, but you have a test bed at scale. So we built Future Africa to essentially back the builders that look at these challenges and say, I think I can build a global business out of this problem. And that's basically what we do.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Future Africa and where you're at?
So Future Africa has had an interesting evolution, right? It actually started out as my family office, and we used to just invest. So when I went to work on a startup like Flutterwave or Andela or Move or whatever, I just came with money, right? I would just, okay, as I'm putting in my time, I want to put in my money, because I think one of the earliest lessons I learned, and this was from Jay-Z, was like the best bet you can make is betting on yourself. So rather than invest in other people's business, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going into this company, I'm going to change the company. I'm going to build this company to be very valuable. I don't want to be the one who's making money for other people. I don't make any money for myself. So I used to invest. And then sometime in 2017, I had this PE guy who was a good friend, good mentor friend, walk up to me and be like, you can invest my money. Like, I see you done really, really well. What if you took my money and invested? And I was like, okay, that's cool. But two things. One, I need to have an out clause, i.e., I need to be able to pay you off and let you go. So it can't be forever. And second of all, well, I want all my holdings in one entity. So I don't want you, like, I can't do this without ownership, which is something else I learned over the years. So anyway, we then evolved into a fund, and it was a very odd setup. It was basically, I put my Andela and Flutterwave shares in a vehicle, and then he brought his money. And if at any time he was dissatisfied or wanted to leave, or for any reason, he could just request 30% of whatever the holdings were at the time, so long as they were above whatever he gave us. And that's it. So his upside was capped at 30% of the holdings at whatever time, and his downside was capped at $1 million, which was what he gave us. And, we're 2 years later, as I foresaw, he had reason to want to leave. So I just calculated what 30% was. It was a pretty big number, and we split. So I think we gave him back. It was a pretty good return for him. I think within 24 months, we gave him back $4.3 million.
Nice.
And then we started building our own firm. And it was around that time I had left Flutterwave. I left Flutterwave in 2018, day to day, and I was just a shareholder. And I thought about going to Silicon Valley to work for a VC. So I actually moved to Silicon Valley. I had my kid in Silicon Valley. And most of the firms were just giving me lip. Like, you have to keep in mind, at this point, I had founded 2 companies. Both were well in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We had raised money from everybody you can think of. And I was walking into firms that I thought would be very appreciative to work with me. And they were giving me like EIR offers, like entrepreneur in residence offers. They were like, you can't be partner. And I think it was just early. People just didn't think Africa was going to be anything. So anyway, by the end of 2019, I was like up to here, and I was like, look, this America thing, not for me. So we moved back to Lagos, very early 2020, right before COVID broke. And then when I got to Lagos, even though there was lockdown, founders would just come to my house. I didn't care. Just come to my house and be like moaning how their businesses are going off the ground, because funders were no longer coming. And that was how we started this collective. We call it the Future Africa Collective. So what I would do is I would write an email about a founder I really, really thought, 1, needed the help, 2, was building something really interesting, and 3, I thought was going places. And I would write what people would call an investment memo on that. So I'll write it in an email. And then I would set up a Zoom meeting. Remember, everybody was home. So we set up a Zoom meeting on Sunday nights. And the founder would pitch to everybody while I asked him questions. Right? He'll pitch to everybody. Then I would direct a Q&A. And then at the end, what happened was there was like an angel list link that would go out. And everybody could put money into that angel list link. Now, the first one was a modest success. Maybe like $100,000 was raised that night. The second one was also like fairly good. But one evening, the day I knew we went crazy was a day we raised $500K in 3 hours for a crypto startup. Unfortunately, it failed. But it was literally like, we just did the thing and then put out the link and everything was filled up. All the allocations were gone. Everybody was calling me. It was so wild. But then it became part of the entertainment of that time, which was like, I'm at home. I get to like invest, play VC, invest in startups. So it's like a edutainment product, so to speak, right? And people pay $500, by the way, $500 to $1,000 to be members. So you didn't get invited to that meeting if you didn't pay at least $500K. $500, sorry, not $1,000. $500 to be part of a collective, which is fantastic for me, right? It was really good revenue. But that was how we did collective. So that was another phase of the firm. Then we foresaw the crash. Like by 2022, things were still riding high, but I had already seen like people were going crazy. There was too much money. So I shut down the collective. So I stopped doing collective deals. By that time, some of our collective members had said, hey, E, like it's too much craziness to invest. Like I have to wake up in the middle of the night and like find my toolkit, talk to my bank. And by the time I do all that, the round's gone. So can you create a new vehicle where I could just give you the money and I genuinely don't care what you do with it? Like just tell me what you invested in after the fact.
Yeah.
So we started doing these rolling funds. So every quarter we would have a bunch of money there. So I still had money in the rolling funds, but I stopped doing the syndicates where you could actually like invest every night, every week, So started doing the rolling funds. That went okay. So I started investing that. And then by 2023, by end of 2022, we had completely exhausted all the funds. And I was like, I'm done with like crowdfunding because it was like collective investing. That's what we used to call it. I'm done with like our version of crowdfunding. I want to just be an institutional VC. So that was how we started the current vintage of the fund I'm in, where we have one big investor, we're a $20 million fund, one big investor. Everybody else is just coming along for the ride. We're being nice. But to be fair, they're like foundations, we've got a big foundation. We've got like a bunch of high net worth individuals, but like I think our entire LP base is maybe 30 people, which is very different from what I was doing before, where our entire LP base was 400 people, right? Plus, actually. So that's the evolution we've been on. But the mission has never changed. For us, it's how do you back founders that are taking the continent's biggest challenges, turning them into global business opportunities? And how do you give those founders capital? How do you give them coaching? How do you help them find community? And, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Itana.
Yeah.
Itana is a big buzzword. It's all over Google. It's all over.
So Itana, so we as Future Africa build businesses. So one of the most successful businesses we built is a business called Move, MOVE. It's actually headquartered in Dubai. And what that business does, we do vehicle financing for Ubers. We started them in Lagos.
Nice.
And then we scaled. We helped build, alongside the founders, like almost everything. So we were the founding investor. We helped secure the deal with Uber. We helped, surround them with support. We helped raise a little bit of the money that they raised next, all of that. So coming off of that, and all my experiences with building startups, I then figured, one of the biggest challenges is we build these startups and then we have to go somewhere else to incorporate them. and build them properly. So Andela we did in Delaware, Flutterwave we did in Delaware, Move we did in Dubai. And I was like, how about if we can figure out a way to build like our own infrastructure for building these companies? Maybe we can then build them to scale because we can provide everything they need, buildings, housing, everything, right? Basically build our own tiny Silicon Valley. And when we started doing the research, and I started nursing this dream maybe in 2016. So this was quite a while back.
Right.
In 2017, I thought about, actually after I quit Flutterwave, I thought about just going and doing it, but I thought it was too early. I also thought about when I left Flutterwave and when I left Andela in 2016, I actually thought about quitting and building it, but I also thought it was too early. And anyway, long story short, at first, our first move was to try and buy $100 million special economic zone. There was an existing $100 million special economic zone that was run down in a small city called Calabar. And we worked hard, but the government wasn't playing ball. So, and we got really good advice from a senior mentor, and he said, this thing you're trying to do, because the place where we're trying to do this was like an hour away from Lagos by flight. And it was like maybe 10 hours by road because the roads were really bad. And he was like, you're trying to do this thing so far away from Lagos, which is like the nerve center of Nigeria and really Africa. And he was like, when you do it over there, all your competitor has to do is do this in Lagos and they'll beat you because Lagos is an hour. Like if they do it in Lagos, it's an hour away from everything. And they're going to have to worry about traveling another 10 hours by road or 1 hour by flight, and good luck to them. So I thought about it and I was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. Like we should just do this in Lagos instead of Calabar. And so we moved everything to Lagos. And we were really lucky. We had an investor who put up land. He had land in a free zone. So he put up his land. Eventually, we didn't get to do a deal with his land. We ended up doing a deal with the free zone directly. But right now, we're in a 2,000 hectare free zone. We've got 1,000 hectares developed, 5 hectares of housing, about 576 units of housing. We're building a 3-hectare campus. It's 240,000 square meters. It's going to be the largest startup campus in the world. And the big idea here is just build 3 things that we think are critical for like building new startup ecosystems as a template, and then move this all over the world. So the 3 things are, first is community. How do you build a community of really smart people who want to build startups? And we've started doing that already. So we have something called the Digital Residency Program. You join our community, we work with you, we help you figure out everything you need to know about building a startup. It's very cheap. It's like $300 and anybody can join it. Second thing we ask you to do is, the second thing we know is really, really important is infrastructure. So in a place like Nigeria, you want a place where you don't have to worry about power, internet. We have power, internet, housing. Like you never have to worry about anything, mobility, whatever. It's all provided for you. And there's a density of really, really smart people living where you are. And we're building like world-class office space, shared collaboration spaces, housing, whatever you need. So we're doing that as well, the infrastructure. We're investing. We just got a commitment from Africa Finance Corporation, which is like a development finance institution that's owned by the Nigerian government, to invest $80 million into the infrastructure development. And that's the first tranche. We're going to build it over 5 phases, and it's going to be $570 million at the end of the program. So we're building like a $500 million, basically city where startups can do whatever. So the infrastructure piece is really, really important. And then the third piece, and I think the most important piece, is the policy. So how do you set up a space where people feel like they have the right legal framework and infrastructure to build? Mm-hmm. They can build companies that can grow global. They have the right banking setup. They have everything is digital. You have the right incentives as an individual and as a company. We've set all of that up. So no taxes in our zone. because you're inside a free zone, so no taxes. You only pay personal taxes, but with your personal taxes, the government, we're working with the government now, you can claim all the things you use at work for your personal taxes. Like you can claim your workspace, your laptop, as a freelancer or even as an entrepreneur, you can claim all of that against your personal income tax. You're able to, and by the way, personal income tax is really low comparatively. It's like for you to be taxed that highest tax rate, you have to be earning like $150,000, which is a lot in Nigeria, right? Then the other thing that we, policy-wise, you can register your intellectual property, you can have a holding company. It's easier and faster for you to get your immigration, your temporary resident permit. So there's a lot of benefits. In some ways, it's like Barbados, right? Like it's how easy it is in Barbados, but in Nigeria. Now, what we want to do is like package all of this stuff, like as a bunch of things you can do, and then just go drop it in like different parts of the global south. So we're having conversations with Barbados as well. I mean, Barbados has like 70% of the stuff already. If they don't have anything, it's really just the space. And we're having a conversation with them about doing something.
Nice.
Then we're looking at other parts of the world, right? And thinking, what can we do with other parts of the world? Other countries that want to do the same thing. So that's the big idea with Eternal.
That's super cool. So you're designing replicable frameworks that can be drag and dropped to different jurisdictions.
Absolutely. I mean, Silicon Valley tells you the only place you can build great businesses is in Silicon Valley. And I just don't think it's true.
Yeah, clearly.
So my job is to make it possible for anywhere in the world to become Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, this idea of free zones, I'm seeing it in the community, right? Like Zanzibar, Dubai, obviously.
Yeah.
And platforming that, making it really super easy, not just to create businesses and incorporate businesses, but incorporate funds and distribute. So just taking out all the friction that would usually be to start a company, run a company.
To start a society, to start a startup society. Yeah.
Which is, I'm a lawyer by profession. So very interestingly, and like, I don't know if you've read The Mystery of Capital.
Yeah, by Hernando Soto.
His big point there between developed and developing is the way that we're able to custody our assets based on the legal framework that we have, like the way we're able to custody possession and protect our assets. And obviously in places like Dubai and places like the US, places like Barbados with strong legal.
Yeah. But the thing about it is
How do you do that in your free
zone? You work with the government. You see, one of the things that we don't realize is that a big chunk of the global south, because of the legacy of colonialism, right? Their laws are designed for extraction. So whenever they wanted to extract human capital or products of human capital like services and IP, they just made you a slave and then made you a good and shipped you out. That's sort of how it worked, right? So they didn't have to pay for services. So the entire legal framework for services, things like IP and things like pay per hour and all this stuff, if you notice, in most global south countries, it's not real.
Right.
Because they didn't have to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, but if you look in the north, in the global north, these ideas have been there forever.
Right.
Right? The idea of billing per hour, the idea of, these are new ideas in the global south. So if you build legal frameworks around what already works in global north with a few cultural nuances, global north people actually need those frameworks to be able to deal in the global south, to be able to hire talent, to be able to work with IP, because they just can't fathom a world where like they're working with somebody and they're not paying them by the hour. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's multiple reasons why global north capital doesn't flow into global south at the rate that we would like it to, and vice versa. Right? When I think about, this is a really big pain point for me. You see major inflation, major asset appreciation in the global north that the global south cannot really participate in. And as easily, right? Like
Yeah.
we all know how hard it is
Yeah.
with a Caribbean passport to set up a brokerage account, you know, on Robinhood or wherever.
Yeah. It should be easy though.
It should be easy.
It should be easy.
Because that's what keeps us, it really keeps us behind,
Yeah.
right? Because we're not able to appreciate at the rate that they're able to appreciate. We're diminishing
your assets.
faster.
But you know, it's possible. That's the beautiful thing. It's all possible.
It's a must.
It's all possible.
It's
So
possible, but it's a must.
and in Nigeria, we used to, I mean, in Africa, more broadly, we used to have this problem. We don't anymore.
Okay, how did you guys solve it?
Well, we just did all the hard stuff.
Yeah, you went all over. You persisted.
Yeah. You went through the upwind.
Upwind.
But more, I think a lot of it was just hoofta, right? It's just being like very particular about. So I'll give you a practical example. I set up the first brokerage in Nigeria, right?
Nice.
Like Robinhood type brokerage called Bamboo, right? I worked with the founder to get it all set up.
Okay.
And it was very simple, right? The first step was, okay, what does it actually take to be a broker-dealer in the US? Not very much, actually. You can get it done with FINRA. It's actually a lot easier than people think, right?
Yeah.
And once you did that, the hard part was actually in Nigeria. Being able to authorize the sale of stocks in Nigeria was harder
Than getting a FINRA license. Of course.
Right?
I mean, it says it very clearly in our laws in Barbados that you're not supposed to invest your US dollars without central bank permission.
Fantastic.
Very hard to get.
So there you go. But you see, there are many ways to get around those rules, right? And there are many ways to adapt those rules to a new kind of world, right? For example, I mean, just plain example. So what we did in Nigeria, I went to an existing broker, right? And I talked to the securities broker and I said, hey, you know, uncle, you have this license. You're not doing very much with it, right? You know, all I want you to do is just to say you as a broker are invested in this stock and we'll pay you a sliver of what people pay us to make this investment.
Right.
Right? And he was able to do that. And he got permission from the regulator because he was, by the way, he himself is like an authority. He was deputy governor of the central bank for 10 years. So good luck to whoever was going to tell him no. Right? And everybody who worked in the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, he hired. So he was like fantastic cover for us. He was also my chairman at Flutterwave, same thing. Right? So we just innovated around the rules where we weren't breaking any rules, but we're in a lot of gray area. And then we launched. And as soon as we launched, the regulator was like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then he was like, okay, what can we do? Because the rules say we can, but I see where you're coming from. So what can we do? And then we created the idea of a digital sub-broker license. And then that became a rule.
Right.
So a lot of it is just actually and the same thing with the tunnel, right? With the tunnel, I literally had to work with the government I'm still working with the government. It's been 7 years, almost 10 years, working with the government to get the rules approved.
Yeah, it's major persistence.
Yeah,
it's
so
a
you
long
just gotta keep
journey.
going. And I've worked on this across 2 administrations. So that means a president has served 8 years, left, and a new president is there, and I'm still on top of it. He's about to finish his first term. But you know, small wins along the way, right? I think the problem is a lot of young people want to change something that's been there for, I don't know. Nigeria has been under colonial rule since at least 1914. You can't change that in 8 years. Right? You got to be imaginative enough to figure out that you got to take some time to change that. And you got to work with the system, not disrupt it.
Yeah,
so that's what we've been doing.
We've
we
definitely
just
seen that.
work with the system. And like this month, for example, this is the first month that it is going to be illegal for you to file your free zone incorporation papers in physical. First time since this law was made 30 years ago.
Since the free zone law was made.
Yeah.
So nothing.
So now it's fully automated, fully digital. You can't file any other way.
Yeah, imagine paper is illegal.
And by the way, we helped them design that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So it just took 30 years.
It just only like your whole life.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are very impatient, right? A lot of people are very impatient. The other thing is also when we started with this like free zones movement, like you're talking about, a lot of people started out with this thing called the Charter City movement.
Right.
And the idea was that we're going to blow up all the laws and government didn't matter and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I kept telling people in my circle, I was like, guys, you got to chill.
Touch grass.
You know, like go outside and touch this grass. If you like, smoke it. But I'm telling you, that ain't going to happen. So we had to we worked slowly with government. Everybody pointed our fingers at us and was like, you're not disruptive enough. You know, a lot of these like Silicon Valley founders were just like, we're going to go after the government, blah, blah, blah. And like many of them are in trouble now just because they didn't want to, or nowhere, right? Because they just didn't want to take the time to build a relationship, to build the trust. When you're in government, you're in charge of, in Barbados, it's 240,000 people. In Nigeria, it's 240 million people. So you can't just make rules like that. You're going to create a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So you got to work with them, educate them, understand what they're saying, and then adapt it to make it work for them.
Yeah. Relationships are
That's very key.
enormous.
Same thing with Barbados. I mean, I've been here, 3 years?
3 years.
I'm just here. I'm just waiting.
You're just here.
I'm just here. I'm just chilling.
I want to know. So when I look at you, E, I see like a porter hummingbird cross-pollinating ecosystems in Africa from the, taking capital, but from within Africa, but also from around the world. Mm-hmm. You went to Waterloo.
Yeah.
All of that Silicon Valley expertise flowing right back into Africa, into projects that are most needed, platforms that are most needed. And you're here in Barbados, and you've been here in Barbados in and out for the last 3 years. Why Barbados?
I keep saying that Barbados is the most strategic place on the planet that's not on the map. Barbados is basically Dubai in 1995.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, if you could, and this is my view of the world, right? There's the Eastern Hemisphere and there's the Western Hemisphere, right? That's just how the world works, right? And America is the center of the world. So the Western Hemisphere, right? And you have the equator and all of that, right? That's where Africa is, right on the equator. Now, on the Eastern Hemisphere, you got a bunch of people who just can't get enough of each other. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel. They're all just there, and Dubai is right in the middle of all. And I don't know how people in Dubai sleep at night. Because I'm like, hey, if an Iranian rocket doesn't get to its destination, what is soup here? And then
I felt that too. I felt that.
You felt
that nervousness.
Yeah. And then on this side, there's complete peace. Maybe if Canada and Mexico and the US exchange some harsh words, that's about as much drama as you get.
Yeah, if so much, yeah.
Right? So it's very peaceful here. There's a lot of capital on this side. Most of the capital in the world is on this side, actually, because America is the biggest pool of capital in the world. Mm-hmm. And you've got a direct 7-hour flight from Africa here. Now, Barbados now happens to be in the center of 5 different major Black populations in the world. Africa, obviously, right? Europe, right? So, because what people don't know about places like, what's the name of this country? There's this European Dutch island that like a lot of people know. If I said the name, you would know. But it's just 5 hours there, right? Of course, England has a lot of Windrush folks, right? And so that's another European exposure. There's a lot of Black people in Europe, right?
Yeah.
You got America, African Americans, right? 5 hours, right? You've got Latin America, specifically Brazil and Colombia, another 5 hours. You've got the Caribbean, 20 million people spread out across islands. All of them.
40, I think it's 40 million.
40 million, even better, 40 million, right? Yeah. You guys have been having more kids. Thank you. Please have more kids. 40 million, right? So that's, when you think about the global South from a perspective of, and it's broader than race, but if you think about it from a race perspective, just like Black people all over the world are sort of undervalued, discriminated against, blah, blah, blah. Barbados is right at the center of every major Black population in the world. Right? And it is the perfect entrepot, right? What do you call an entrepot? An entrepot is a country, is like a port. It's basically just a big port. That's what Dubai is for the Middle East. Everything shipped from India goes through Dubai and wherever it's going. Singapore does the same thing for Southeast Asia. Everything right there. Panama does the same thing for the US and Mexico, right? Barbados can do the same thing, but in the digital economy and in the physical economy, because it's just that centrally located. It has very good laws, very good property rights, very stable. It's been stable for the last 300 years, right?
Yeah.
Very, and very smart people, right? Very smart people, very well-educated population, and safe. So if you were looking for Dubai for the Western Hemisphere, you wouldn't find a better candidate. But a lot of things need to be built for us to get there. And that's good. I like that kind of work.
So where do you think we start?
I think, first of all, just like anything else, you start with a community. How many smart people from around the world, particularly the global South, can you get to just come here and spend a few months a year? That's the first step, because the people are really what make the place work. It's not about the infrastructure. You can spend all your money on infrastructure and no one will show up. Ask Malaysia about that.
Yeah, so you don't believe it and build it and they'll come.
No, you got to bring them and they'll come. And people can find value in, like, the people you bring are the people who built.
Of course.
Yeah, that's how the west of the United States was won, right? So first of all, bring them, and when they come, they'll build. So the first step is exactly like I said. First of all, bring the community together, the talent. Next, work on the policy that makes it easy for the people you've brought in to build, which is where Barbados is working right now. And then the infrastructure just shows up, because infrastructure is a response to human needs. It's not, you know what I mean? Like you can't imagine infrastructure for people. Depending on who's there, they would need different kinds of infrastructure.
Right.
The biggest mistake that a lot of countries make is like they just go and try and make their city look like Hong Kong or New York and believe people will show up, but never happens, right? Because if I want to go to Hong Kong or New York, I just book a flight, right? I go to Hong Kong or New York and I get out of my system and I come back. So if your place doesn't have anything unique to offer, particularly with reference to the kind of people who come, you're not optimizing for the kind of outcome you want.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I wrote an article for Business Barbados called Unicorn Island. And I did that.
I love it.
Yeah. And here we are with another manifestation of that with you in front of us. But I could see that these unicorn founders were coming to Barbados.
Yeah.
And setting up, setting up for a few months, buying properties, renting from Canada, from the US. Yeah. Like if we really look up the coast and really dived into who is here, there's tremendous talent and capacity.
Yeah. But you just haven't brought that talent and capacity together in a very intentional way.
No.
And gotten them to build from here.
A lot of value on the table.
So you're already there. So I saw the same trend, seeing, okay, where are founders hanging out? And people are like, oh, I'm hanging out in Barbados. And I was like, look, I love Dubai, but I'm not going to be able to sleep with Israeli rockets over my head. Iranian rockets and all sorts of rockets. I don't want to deal with that, right? I'd just rather be on the Western Hemisphere where it's peaceful and quiet.
Yeah, and beautiful.
And beautiful. And very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so intentionally building that community, just because I think community is tremendously important. How have you been doing that here? And What's the best angle to approach that?
I would say not enough. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting with a community that I know. So whenever I have brilliant founders or people that I know, I get them to come spend time on the island. There's quite a number of them coming here in the next few weeks for Carry Festa. So,
right.
or days really,
Yeah,
right? So
days.
we're gonna spend some time together, get them to go out, whatever. I think there has to be a more intentional approach. But I've just been, one thing you got to realize about ecosystem building is half the work is just testing your own patience, right? In the sense that how long-term committed are you to building something? Because a lot of people think they can do 1, 2, 3, 4 and build Silicon Valley. But no one tells you like Silicon Valley, the traitorous 8 or the magnificent 8, depending on who you hear, those guys, I mean, they were a 19th century phenomenon. You know what I mean? Like they didn't just show up. They were there for a while. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and they started all of this and the research, and then you had several generations. And I mean, by the time people like Sequoia show up in the 1970s, which is 50 years ago, in case people have forgotten, you know what I mean? A lot has already happened.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time. Like it takes like 100 years to build something.
Yeah. I mean, it should be faster now with technology and...
You hope it is. But if you don't have the mindset that it's going to be a 100-year march, you're going to get tired easily.
Right.
If you definitely think it's going to take 3 years, you're not going to be here by the time it happens. And I think that's the biggest issue many people have. So for me, I recognize that we're moving slow, but I think it's not a bad thing.
Right. But it allows us to pivot a little bit.
Yeah,
more
it
quickly.
allows you to move at the pace of the environment.
Yeah.
Right. And you can already see evidence that a lot of things are changing, right? Like, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter about the new immigration bill. That's going to open a lot of doors for the right kind of people to show up here. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of changes. Barbados is looking at instant payment system.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, right? And the more progressive the leadership, and you have very progressive leadership right now, and I think you will continue to for a while. The better things get.
Yeah, certainly. One of the big trends that I'm seeing as like that next big thing is energy and sustainability of energy, because AI requires so much input, output, like double what we currently have. How are you solving that in Africa and for your free zone, as well as what is hit, as well as what you think about here in that regard? Because certainly that's the biggest crux of the matter.
It's big. And it's not just because of AI. I think, the reality of energy is that you can't do very much if you don't have energy. And the more energy you have, the more productive as a society you become. It's just life.
Yeah, it's life.
So in Africa, in our zone, we've got capacity for 120 megawatts of power, which is a lot. Right now, we fired up 10 megawatts, all gas, right? We have a gas pipeline running through our property. We provide 24/7 power. Our current needs are 10 megawatts, but as more families come online, we have the capacity to grow to 120 megawatts over the next few years.
Okay.
In Barbados, we're very excited about the 60 megawatt power project. It's a relatively small battery project.
Right.
But then we're talking to the people who are in charge, or partnering with people who are bidding and trying to see what we can do there.
And what kind of energy is that? Like?
So really the problem Barbados has is that it has a lot of suppliers of solar energy and not enough offtake. And that's primarily because there's a mismatch between when that power is available and when it's needed.
Right.
Right. So I think the government has a plan to put a battery storage system in place so that you actually have a proper functioning grid. Right. And I think that's going to be a great idea. Right.
No, that's super necessary.
Yeah, super necessary. Yeah.
Right. You spoke about unemployment in Africa at 40%. I think unemployment in parts of the Caribbean could potentially be surpassed. Definitely those numbers could be surpassed. up to 50% in terms of youth unemployment.
Yeah, youth unemployment. This is youth unemployment. Yeah.
Youth unemployment.
Yeah.
Tremendous travesty, given that we barely have enough youth to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's not as though our populations are declining like you spoke about in the beginning. So technically there should be more work for those because we have such an aging population.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How do you see us bridging that gap?
So you see, the challenge is work is a function of economic activity.
Yeah.
Right? And the biggest challenge that most of our societies have, it's same in the Caribbean as it is in Africa, is that there isn't enough valuable work going on, right? Like, there's only so many people that can wait on you hand and foot at a hotel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, not everyone should be doing that.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It's just expensive.
Right.
Right? Especially when we're going into a world where AI and robots can do that.
Yeah.
So the biggest crisis is usually how can you find economic opportunity in other parts of the world and bring it here, right? And that requires a complete change of mindset about work. What is valuable work? Because the first thing that we need to change is this idea that just because somebody went to school for something, they should get a job, right? In Andela, we just discounted your undergrad. We just like, well, fantastic that you have an undergraduate education, but it means nothing here. We're going to test you for XYZ skill, right? And we're going to train you for XYZ job. And I think that's what needs to happen here. We just need to like get out of this idea that just because you went to UE, you deserve a job. We have to start from what kind of skills, what does the world need? What kind of skills does the world need that we can deliver? And then how can we train people for those jobs? So it's everything from, there's a lot of businesses, maybe they're coming from Africa, bringing clothing here. And maybe you just need people who can, brand and drop ship. This is a perfect place to do that, right? All they just do is
do you know of a particular example where
of people who doing it
in regard to clothing?
I'm seeing particular examples where, for example, there was a story today. I don't know whether it was in one of the big dailies about not in Barbados, I think in the US, or on a blog about how this year a lot of teenagers in the US are ordering prom dresses from Nigeria.
Wow.
Like 5,000 prom dresses. I just read it on my way here. And there's no reason why they couldn't make those prom dresses, do the patterns in Nigeria, ship them here, and from here, they're shipped over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how you create jobs, right? Yeah. You got to figure out what can you trade? What can you,
Yeah, no, I had a podcast with one of the leading economists, two of the leading economists in the Caribbean the other day here. And it was all about, we consume 70% of everything. I mean, is foreign. How do we, in order for us to increase productivity, in order for us to increase jobs, we have to be more productive and create more of the value here. And not just add-ons, like not just 30%, but like 50% of the value should come from our markets potentially.
I think it's a function of volume as well, though.
Yeah.
If you're doing 30% of billions, like you look at Dubai, like barely any Emirati works.
Of course.
Right? Because they've got a lot of people who just...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've just built massive infrastructure. And I think that there are less Bajans, for example, than they're Emirati.
Yeah, there's only 1 million Emiratis, 240,000 Bajans.
So you could build an economy that was literally just, a conduit for valuable products to go from Africa here to the US, Africa here to China, Africa here,
Yeah, certainly. I saw an example with a suitcase manufacturer from China setting up a huge depot in Trinidad to assemble these suitcases so that they could enter the US market more easily with the tariff situation that we have.
Yeah. The only thing here is that because your median age is 50, right, you may need to bring in more labor to be competitive.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something that Bajans should be worried about, right? Because so long as because what does it take to maintain a welfare state in Barbados? I would argue maybe $10 billion a year.
To maintain
a welfare state, like every Barbadian citizen gets.
Oh, a sovereign wealth fund, like a fund.
Not even like a
similar.
sovereign wealth fund, like kind of think of NSSF, like the Social Security Fund.
Right. Okay.
Right. Like, what does it take to make sure every Bajan, regardless of whether they're employed or not, can just be comfortable?
Yeah.
I think
retired. Sorry, you're saying. But it's about productivity as well, and
yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that if your median age is 50.
Yeah, we have to think for the future.
You understand what I'm saying? But you see, your younger people, you know what I mean, can actually, be more productive in the society, right? Because they would have other things that they could do, right? They could get involved in arts and they could get involved in building some of these businesses. They could be hired in some of these businesses. They could be lawyers to some of these businesses.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's really thinking about it from the point of view of how do I become an entrepot for economic activity?
Yeah.
And then in that way grow. Because I think sometimes a lot of what is suggested is not practical in the sense that, like, for a lot of cultural reasons and for good reason, people don't want to package, people don't want to spend their time sewing patterns, you know what I mean? Or repackaging boxes, or you understand what I'm saying? Repackaging suitcases, they don't want to do that with their time,
Yeah.
They went to UE, they should be doing something prestigious. That's okay.
Of course.
But the economy can be designed in such a way that you provide an avenue for those types of people to show up on the island, do the job, and the state gets the benefit and the citizens benefit from that benefit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, no. And wrapping up, thank you so much, E, for being here. But wrapping up, I was listening to a podcast the other day and it highlighted how the face of China was changed by the entrepreneurs, right? That's who increased the GDP per capita from nothing to something, right? In the face of China. And it's obviously the same with you and all the work that you've done in Africa. It's the same for us here in the Caribbean. It's the entrepreneurs, it's not the government. It's the entrepreneurs that will change the face of this place. It was the same for, for many places.
Yeah. I mean, builders build. That is literally all they do, right? Builders build. And if you want a place to be built up, if you want people who look challenges in the face and turn those challenges into fantastic businesses, you got to find entrepreneurs and build a community of them in your country. And I think the benefit that a Barbados has is that a lot of them want to come anyway.
It's not a hard sell.
It's not a difficult sell. Not at all.
Yeah, it sounds
I can think of a few more places where I have to pitch hard, like Lagos.
Way harder. That's an upwind battle for sure.
But we get it done.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being such a legendary leader that you are, and for the contribution you're making to this world and to Barbados. We're very lucky.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
Thank you.